Aloha, Pali. Mahalo nui for coming to see me. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being a real big part in my life and a good mentor. It has inspired me to continue to do the things that I'm doing today in preserving the stories, preserving our iwi kupuna, and hopefully, in the future, many people can continue this tradition on. But I just wanted to ask you some questions, and where were you born, where you from, and the kind of lifestyle you lived?
Yeah, I'm from Kapu and Punaluu Beach in Kapu. Grandparents lived on the beach, and I was raised there, and I would go to Honolulu once in a while, but I would spend more time in Kapu, and I was kind of nurtured in old ways, We lived without electricity till the 60s, so kind of stayed close to the land as much as possible because that's all they knew. But they weren't too much Christianized, we didn't go to church on Sundays. We were more traditional and did a lot of spiritual things on ourselves and our families and what they were taught. So I was a young mo'opuna that got nurtured into and conditioned to do a lot of the ceremonial, more or less, preparations for a lot of spiritual things. So I grew up as a gopher little mo'opuna that, but I learned a lot, being connected and learning something that they was responsible for, and that was passing on their traditional beliefs, and they instilled it in me that how they were probably kids so young at that time. So I was part of learning a lot of what they had and realized that I was the next link as we moved as Hawaiians traditionally. And so I grew up learning a lot of those things. We would do whole kupus for Pele when he was erupting in the 50s at Mau and practices and watching my elders, my tutus, do it. So I was young where my participation was more of preparing, helping them prepare because they were older. I would go get things and prepare things and wash things that they needed for offerings. So I was exposed to a lot of traditional upbringings and understandings of our spiritual wants and needs. And they were just passing it on. It was good for them. It was good for generations before. So I learned how to respect myself as a Hawaiian, realizing that today. But then that was the conditioning, and getting my consciousness to understand who I really was and my place in this world. So I did a lot of traditional things. We took care of whole kupus when Pele erupted in Halimau. I was young. It was cold. I remember we always went at night. My grandparents didn't want people to see, or I think at that time there was maybe shame for other people to see, but they were proud enough to still do it. So I was exposed to those type of emotions and experiences, and once a year would make whole kupu for fishing cord or pillow cause. So I would be helping preparing the pig and the kalua, and then we'd take the offerings out to the cause for the opelo. And that was for the thanks of the fishing, and we, asking Kaho'olawe for good weather so we can keep fishing. We live on the east side where it's always windy, rough, but we seem to see good times a lot when we did our offerings to our fishing cause. So I grew up around a lot of traditional type of practices, before I moved on as an adult. So I kept a lot of that, in my files, and that was inside, and today I think it paid off.
And I just wanted to ask you too, is who was your mentor that helped you, or really inspired you, when you were growing up?
My grandparents were well respected by everybody in that little fishing village. So, there was nobody up to par with Grandma, So I would say that she was more or less the director who orchestrated, and the responsibility that she had And that's who I looked up to, because nobody else was that understanding as she was. So that's who I took my direction from, and I'm glad I did. And as a young kid, you just want to go hang out with friends more than hang around with the old folks. But I had an obligation, so like I say, I learned a lot, and didn't think I would use that in life, but it played a big role through my whole life, hanging on to those concepts and treatment of how we treat each other and the respect we have for our ancestors. And what I learned was my ancestors' practice. That's what she was doing, it's just passing down what she learned. So, and that's the link I'm talking about. Each generation or each baby is linked to the next generation. So I was a link for my family to carry on these traditions.
Was there anything said about Hawaiian burials? Was it a sacred thing at that time, or?
I was around a lot of old folks, and they were passing on, you know, and my grandparents were, you know, just being part of their families' things, but a lot of them were Christians, so I was exposed to a lot of Christian burials, like we are probably today, and saw that in the past. And the iwi was very respected by my grandparents because we weren't allowed to touch them. I was told that growing up, I'm not supposed to go in caves. That's not a place for us. It was a place where Hawaiians rested, and there were people responsible for that. And that's who you go see if you had your family put there or something, was the person responsible. So there was a lot of respect for that part, but it wasn't something that was really pushed on to think about. That was supposed to be an automatic understanding of respect. What I've learned was more about life and living, and the past was something that you just respected a lot, but you didn't dwell on it or talk about it too much. You know, but as an adult now, I know the importance of what that is today, the iwi.
So Pali, can you just share with me like a situation that, you know, when you're growing up that really impacted you, that you felt that you needed to help and get involved in?
It was after my high school and going into military and during the Vietnam era, and I came home 3 years after. And then got in the mainland where I lived. When I came out, I was exposed to, at that time in the 60s, the black movement, friends that I met, and realized that I wasn't in the movement per se out of how people may look at it. I learned from some of the leaders about what they were grumbling about, and never knowing what racism was. Raised in Hawaii, we don't play that card, you know. But then I get to see how it really is with other races in America, and then I went to the American Indians and, you know, and Chicanos, and I learned a lot about what their situation was on just trying to live equal in the United States. And in that time, I started to realize, as a Hawaiian, I fitted into all these mistreatments that they talk about. And nobody in Hawaii, I didn't hear anybody talk about that, how governments and its mistreatment. And so that wasn't the focus, like a lot of Hawaiians growing up. But when you got exposed to other humans and different races, you start to take a little focus on where do you stand as a Hawaiian, you know? So my big importance was when I came home, I wanted to find Hawaiian organizations like the blacks had that was making movement or making things correct, things that were wrong, and I saw Kaho'olawe. That was like in '78, I came back after George Elm. There was a group of Hawaiians that were going against the military. And I thought, well, that's the toughest group because they were going to fight the United States, the Defense Department, and, you know, the whole security of the United States. But it was the moral issue about bombing an island that had burials. bombing the island that had resources and spiritual ones, heiaus and stuff. So I joined. I went in and joined them in 78. I didn't meet George Helm or know anything about those situations, but I was glad going there because I started to see that there were a lot of other Hawaiians that felt the way I felt, saw that there was wrong and injustice. So I got really involved with the movement. The thing about learning from them was that it was cultural. It was cultural things, and I had that in my files from growing up. So I understood what the pinpoint was and where we should take the focus. And in the learning of the black movements and everybody, it was human rights. So we have that human rights, but then we could add a cultural component to the human rights. And I thought, wow, how much extra that we can use to bring our issues to focus. But whole opposition, the military want to know why we was at Kaho'olawe. What's our purpose from going to this island that they were bombing? So we as Hawaiians had to say it's Hawaiian things, you know. There's a burial over here, there's a heiau over there, there's sites over here. There were a lot of Hawaiian things that showed us that the Navy shouldn't bomb it anymore. So that went into litigation because they never did an EIS before they bombed. So that put a stop on the bombing till that EIS, which they had to comply with, dealt with these issues that you're supposed to do in EISs. And barrels are part of that research. What are you doing on the impact, on what? So we had to show all the whats were in the impact, and won the lawsuit. So the Navy had to stop the bombing and start cleaning it up. At that time, they were resistant. So their way of stopping the bombing was, okay, you Ohana guys can go on 1/3, and we're going to bomb the 2/3, you know. So that agreement went in with a consent decree. So that made them bomb the 2/3, we the 1/3. So the Ohana went through this whole understanding of, do we allow bombing and we on one side, or no bombing at all? But the common sense part of that was, we got our foot in the door. Now we can control the other 2/3 of the bombing because now we're there. Not trying to sneak there anymore. We had a right to be there. So we extended our religious practice because when we were there for our practice, they couldn't practice. That was the agreement. So they could bomb after we left. But that's the first domino to me. Because after that, it slowly started spreading this religious practice about how far do we go and where do we go. And next thing you know, we're all over the island. So now the Navy is starting to go, well, they're over here, they're over there, and it got tough for them to stop it. So I say, like the first domino, it started to knock them down until, well, I think it was government funding to continue bombing, and with all the red flags that we was throwing up, they stopped funding it. Kaho'olawe didn't get bombed anymore. We felt strong about our spiritual component. We added that's why they stopped the bombing, and they're saying that the reason is no funding.
I also wanted to ask you, when did you hear about the desecration that was going on at Honokahua on Maui?
And at Honokahua was the big burial site that they were digging. And Honokahua wasn't the first. They were digging up all over these islands way before Honokahua. The laws at that time in Hawaii was, if you bought the property, you owned the bones. You know, there was no checks and balances or integrity in how you treat Hawaiian iwi.
When you were at Honokahua, when you first arrived there, you know, when you guys decided to, you guys got on a plane, what did you guys see? Like when you first went to the site?
Well, you know, my first exposures to how they dig up burials, because I've never saw that before. My vision was when I saw Indiana Jones. How they were doing their excavation was the same. It was just like, I could not believe what it looks like in reality, you know, watching a movie that now you see it, you know. And in there, I had no feeling about it was a movie. But when you saw your own kind being treated that way, it was a whole different, you know, a whole different analogy of what you're looking at, man. You'd see these tarps and strings and shakers and all over the place, and it was massive. There, you know, there was acres of that diggings, and all different levels, and containers where you would put them all in these boxes and put them in the containers just to keep it from more decaying or erosion or degradation of the EVs, whatever these archaeologists do. But you know, when you take something out that old and it's very delicate, and so I said it was really bad treatment, and it was hard and disgusting for a lot of us Hawaiians that felt the way we all felt, because we saw it, you know. You lift up these tarps and see skulls, you see bones, all over. And I was like, you know, gee, is that how they really gonna do me when I die, or what? I mean, what's up with this? So, and the Molokai Ohana guys felt more of a relation because they're right across the channel. A lot of them felt that that was their Ohana, their family that were buried there. So there was really strong emotion. And I don't care where they came from, Oahu, Kauai, even Maui people that didn't really know what's going on, you know, and the Big Island. We all really felt the same, you know, how Pilau and Soa, the situation was. I mean, it's different than just looking at one movie or reading one book, bro. You were right there on top, just like you could feel them, you know, being hurt or sore. And, you know, they mock you really, but just different kind of feeling, you know. And the feeling was, you cannot do this already enough. And I heard there was more women and children that was dug up out of that Honokahua they dug up, was more of that. And kind of felt more, I mean, maybe I'm Western conditioned a little bit about feelings, but, you know, so women and children got more sore. You know, men, you know, adults, what they go through and what I go through, I didn't. But, you know, like women and children, you know. So that was really strong, and we sat around and we slept. Everybody slept in the burial site. So we stayed there overnight and discussed what we're going to do. But that's how strong it was. I mean, you were there, and we thought if it was bad, it would kick us out. But it didn't do that kind of feeling. We had more feeling of we should comfort them. So we were just like, you know, I would say one Band-Aid or one saw, you know, we were covering the pilau or the kaki or the saw of what they were doing. And members of our Ohana who was from Maui, the Maui Ohana, knew about this. So when we got all aware about what was going on, and our own members were part of what was happening, there was a little bit of conflict with that, but it wasn't about me and uncle or me and Ente. It was about just no dig 'em. And it was our Evie. Then you had that whole thing about, what, you from Big Island, what are you going to do on Maui? It's not your Evie. You know, and I would say, well, if you took my DNA and DNA off the Evie, it's not going to tell you it's a Maui Evie, right? It's us, it's me, it's you, it's Hawaiian everywhere. So it wasn't a point about where I came from. It was the issue of, you can't be digging us up like this. And, you know, it got so bad that it got up to 1,200 bodies of digging, and I don't know what the magic number was, but Hawaiians were hired by the archaeologists, and I think it was Rosendahl at that time was contracted to dig it up for Kapalua. And they had the permits to dig. So, you know, in the protest part, you're going to learn about who said you can do it and how do you get this far. So you start figuring, or not figuring, you learn that the state gives permits to be doing these things. And permits come from different commissions or departments. So you had a DLNR one, you got a CZM one, you got the SMA, you got all these different classifications of permit for development. So these development commissions all signed off to say, go ahead, you can dig it. And there was already a registered historical site of a burial. It was already, the state knew on documentation of their own that that was a burial site. They recorded it. But they still gave the permission to dig it. There was no law saying they couldn't. It was just up to the permitting stages. So they got all the permits to dig. Then you would think, well, you have to go to OHA. You need the Hawaiian permission to do that, because there was no burial councils. There was nothing. So OHA signs an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that they can dig them up and hire Hawaiian archaeologists and Hawaiian people in that field, and that means they can wash their hands because the Hawaiians are doing it. I mean, that's been a MO for the state, always to get, your Uncle Toms in there, man, to do what they want you to do. And we're supposed to say that's a Hawaiian answer. OHA was involved in signing an MOU, as I was saying, that they agreed that it's okay to dig them up. So everybody signed off on this, that all the way to the Maui County and the landowner and Shipty and everybody, that you can go ahead and dig it up. So when we got in the conversation with the Ohana member that got hired, which was Uncle Les Kuloloyo at that time, and telling me about how much bodies were digging up, and he was hired to take care of the Hanaino part, and I just didn't know how you can define Hanaino when you start digging. That's the first Hanaino, not after. That didn't stop us from protesting. The rest of the Ohana still agreed it needs to stop. We should all go on the site, and we should protest the digging and try to stop it. So that's what we did. We all got together and went on Honokahua, the whole Kaho'olawe gang, and started to raise those issues. And then when we were there, we discussed where do we go from here. Today is just one day. What's going to happen when we all go home tomorrow? So the plan had to be looking at moving forward with our understanding of what we should do. So we decided that we should take the next level to another big noise issue, and that would be the camp across the governor's house on the state capitol. So that's when we planned to say, we got to take it to the man's house. If he's the guy in charge of all these departments that signed off on the permits, then he's the problem. Not these staff people that there for a job and could care less. And if you cared about something, you change your job or move another department. But it wasn't about them. It was about the guy who gave them the orders. So the plan was go after the governor. He's the head guy on the station area of every station area. So we planned to go there and at the state capitol. We planned overnight vigil from 12 lunchtime to 12 lunchtime the next day. Every hour we built a lily, and every hour they would be chanting for the past, the dead, in some chants that they found in research on what we used to say back then for the passing. It ended up with the media being there at 6 o'clock. We were there at 12, lunchtime. By evening news, we came on the news. By 10 o'clock news, more chanters showed up because we thought we'd just have one person chanting every hour till no more voice. Kumuhulas came from the news and came down and were willing to do the chant for every hour we chanted. And the next day after that, there were hundreds, maybe thousands of Hawaiians showed up at the state capitol. So that was enough for Waihe to fold. He had a Christmas ball that night. I was on the 23rd. And 2 days more was Christmas. So we planned that because it's a time of year where everybody's supposed to have good feelings too. So we took advantage of Christian people being humble during Christmas time and maybe that's a good time to talk about Evie and make them feel a little bit guilty. But that time of year would make you feel more humble and more nice. So we picked the 23rd. He had a ball, Christmas ball, and by the next day with all those people, he crossed the street. So when he came across, a few of us went upstairs in his chamber, and he got very emotional and cried, and we just said, we got to go to the governor because he's the head man of this. And sad, it was Waihe, one Hawaiian himself, but also sad that all the Hawaiians in Aloha signed off to, and all the Hawaiians in society that was all part of them never say nothing. There was nobody coming forward to say anything. And to me, there were all these Hawaiians doing dancing and singing, and they had all the limelight, but nobody came forward for those Iwi. And the governor was responsible, so we held him responsible. And like I said, we took him to his own chambers and pinned him down and said, hey, you got to stop this, emotion and all that can hammer in an hour. But this Iwi being dig is continuous, so. Well, he did stop it. He said, okay, it's pau. Today is pau. So the word went out that they stopped digging. Everybody was happy. Everybody's singing and celebrating and everything. But that's fine. But what's the follow-up, man? That was fine for that Honokahua, but are they going to continue digging all over the place? Or Honokahua, they're just going piecemeal situations. I fix over here, I ruin over there. So we had that kind of problem about what we're going to do on a follow-up. So we decided to go to legislature because December is when we did the protest, and January legislature was going to open legislature. So we wanted bill to be passed to protect the Iwi. We had to create our own laws, and that's all we got. We don't want treaty like American Indians on what they're responsible for. We don't have nothing. We just rip off. So now, as smart Hawaiians, we know that they didn't do nothing. Then we got to do something. We have to create laws for the future, no hurt the kids. We got to do that because there's no thing we can use to say they're responsible. We have to show the irresponsibility in courts, through demonstrations, and then take that stuff to legislation and hope that there's some laws that you could make that would protect and stop these kind of diggings. So I would say that Governor Waihe, man, he's still around, and they still use him. The system does, or whatever, but why isn't he coming forward today? Why aren't all these old players that were part of the problem not coming back and fixing it? Because they never fixed the problem, man. They just entertained the problem. They didn't fix it. And they're still around, and I hold them responsible for not coming back. I'm here still talking about it. I'm still on my island, and whatever island needs to be called, call me to help protect Iwi, because it's going on every island every day. And they don't come back and hold these positions with some integrity and as a Hawaiian to make changes. And we have to do that. So they hurried up in haste to make a burial council. They say, we'll protect the Iwi, now we're going to make a burial council. And here's the policies and the rules of the burial council. So everybody's happy that they made a burial council. Now we got a voice on how they're going to treat the Iwi. And if you find one, the law of the burial, you have to stop, turn it over to DLNR, Shipty turns it over to the burial council. But my problem in that was, who makes up these rules and who makes the policies that this commission has to live by? And it's not Hawaiians. So we go right back to the mistreatment and use burial council as a nice title to say that burial council, they're going to do something. No, they got people sitting in there that have no traditional understanding. They got people in there that they appoint that are not even Hawaiians. You got people sitting in there, Hawaiians, that are Christians. And Christians dig you up every day all over the place. It's been going on for generations. So Where and where did we go with the burial councils when they put these kind of people, when there's non-Hawaiians or traditional Hawaiians making policies or rules that you have to follow that shows integrity, respect, no more nothing. You know, you can move from Oahu to Kau today, and tomorrow, because you got a Kau address, sit on a burial council and represent the iwi of Kau. You're not even from there. But because your address said you're from there, and because you moved there 10 years ago, you qualify to sit and talk about my ancestral's iwi, and you ain't got no connection to it. I mean, there's no respect on who sat down and do this. A group of lawyers, a group of businessmen. Is it the same like the old days, just that they don't have curly hair or big mustaches? They're just different people, but have the same type of brain that is disrespectful, you know. And it's hard for me, through all these years as an activist, not learn, understand, dissect, and see where all the problems was. You know, so now I see that there's people in Hawaii that run Hawaii, run Hawaiian lives that are not Hawaiians, and it's been going on for too long. And if it's going to be a Hawaiian, it's going to be an entity that they make as the Hawaiian buffer for the Hawaiians. That's why you got Office of Hawaiian Affairs that won't get involved, because all our issues are fighting the state. So when you go to OHA, they're a state entity. They don't want to help you. They can't help you. They don't like bite the hand that feeds them. So we stuck again. Where do we turn, you know? In the Burial Council run by the state, the Hawaiian concerns run by the state, we don't get nowhere. So the sad part is nobody fixes it. And it keeps going on, going on. I was at the Burial Council just a couple months ago and saw that whole fiasco of what they do. And it's still being run by archaeologists, non-Hawaiians. They sit around and make up these policies or these ideas. And you know darn well, if you went to an anthropology school, they're not going to have a course in spirituality. They don't have that. But then they could sit down and tell the Hawaiian how we spiritually should protect this or take it out or move it over there, take a picture, and we saved it by taking a picture, and then we dig them out. That's what's going on right now. And the people on the council who's transplant Hawaiians, flying from island to island looking for a place to live, try to put themselves in these positions. What makes part of the problem the problem? They have no respect for the Hawaiians there. They just sit there and go, oh, they're on an ego trip or whatever it may be, or the state or OHA gives them this little pedestal to stand on, and their head blow up, man. Now you got these Hawaiians that's sitting there with no respect for the Hawaiians or where they come from. And you get where? Where do we go with all this history? Recently, I just hear that you got Hawaiian organizations going around worried about whale bones. They're doing that right now. It's all over newspaper, everything. We're taking care of the whale and their bones, and they're digging us up every day, the real Hawaiian bone. And there's nobody stepping up to stop or to change laws. Or even some of our legislators that we all went to school with. We went to school with all these second, third generation immigrants that live in Hawaii. That was my guys I went to school with. You think they go and say, hey, I know all about the Hawaiians. I'll go in legislature when I make it there and protect them? We don't get none of that. So it's like, gee, bro, you know who I am, but you're still going to act like you're ignorant of my needs, my wants, my rights. And that's been going on for a long time. When we Hawaiians got to ask for something, we have to do it ourselves. And it's said that on one island, all the people that you grow up with play the I don't know you card, man. I don't know you. You're on your own. So it's been like that. It's been terrible about the fact that, yes, the iwi is important, more important to me than one opai or one Hawaiian snail. But they get all the attention on how we should protect them, how much buffer they should have, how much habitat they need to exist. But for a human like Hawaii, we don't get nothing like that. You wish that the iwi was an endangered species. So maybe they on law on the iwi, and then they leave it alone in its habitat. So maybe that's what we need, for the iwi to change into a whole nother category of IDing who he is.
A lot of times, you have a lot of politicians and stuff like how you're mentioning, and the people who's really trying to make change are the ones not even in that, like in politicians would be the more like the grassroots.
Yeah, and they got the power, they got the position, they got the status to make these differences, and they don't. You got to go in there and beg, and they say, well, come back next year. And you go like, why didn't you get it? Or why do I have to come back? You're supposed to catch it. But they just don't care, man. It's sad that you come down after all these years and say how far we've come from all of these demos and all of these lawsuits and all of these testimonies, and it's just same stuff over and over. And I just watch Hawaiians begging to be Hawaiians, talking to non-Hawaiians about how much Hawaiian they can be. It's just disgusting. Like I'm just a rag, man. I don't even count when I gotta beg one non-Hawaiian in Hawaii to tell me how much Hawaiian I have to be. Nobody listens to us. Nobody cares. They make fun of you. They call the cops. They kick you out. You're emotional. That's how emotional it is. You cannot have emotion. You got to talk nice. You can't raise your voice. And all these years, you only get 3 minutes. I mean, it's disgusting that the only avenues we have are what they offer, and they shut the door on everyone. It's just routine. And in Hawaii, where you hiding, man? Maybe you can create one ghetto in L.A. or one barrio in L.A. But what do you do in Hawaii, man? We all go zippies, we all go shopping. Where you hiding? You're not hiding no Hawaiians. You just want them to get lost in the stir fry and hope he never comes back grumbling. And saying that if I can be this in the new world, well, what are you grumbling about, Hawaii? Why can't you be this? So it's just the attitude of we having no voice, and whoever has the voice ignore us. And that's how sad it is, but that's reality. I mean, American Indian, if you found iwi in California, it belongs to the tribe. You find iwi in Hawaii, it belongs to Shipti. And they'll put the iwi in one plastic bag, a brown paper package, write a number on it and a date, and throw them on a shelf. You ever went down the Shipti and look how much stuff they get? Did they ever go into any archaeologists, LLCs, and see how much artifacts they stashing? Huh? They got loaded stuff. They've been stealing for a long time. And that ain't a Hawaiian profession. Archaeology, that's a culture vulture right there. They just dig up and do what they want to do. They don't have any integrity about bones and iwi. They've been doing it to Egyptians, they're doing it to American Indians, and they're doing it to us. And then you find all the, eBay get this, eBay get that. They're selling skulls, they're selling iwi, they're selling all kinds of things. And the artifacts come especially with a skull stick. When they dug up South Point in 1953 and took all the bones to Bishop Museum, we had to fight the museum to bring it back. And if the Indians didn't pass a law that all the Smithsonian stuff had to be returned to the Indians because you couldn't display skeletal remains, and they had skeletal remains with bullet holes in the head saying that was from this cavalry or whatever, they had to take that all out of display, how disrespectful, and return it to the Indians. And because Bishop Museum collect federal funding, the law applied to them. And I think the state also collect maybe federal funding. And they should be putting the Hawaiian burial laws on the NAGPRA, under the feds, and say, hey, where else you going? If it protects the Indians, how come you don't protect me? If these things are allowed for American Indians, how are we different? What? We don't come under a star too. I thought that star, the 50 meant I'm part of the 49 guys. And the 49 guys are treated this way. Why am I treated this way? So why isn't the state using federal guidelines to protect me? Should I take the state to federal court because I come under these two acts of the federal government of protection of American Indians? I didn't ask to be on those bottom line of all these acts, but they got me there. They got an Indian, they got Alaskan, and they put Hawaiian. So I qualify for this status that the feds have on how they treat Eevee, but the state don't recognize it. That's the problem thing. So I'm saying that they should get litigated in the federal courts on how they treat Eevee. And I guarantee you'd win that because the feds go and say, whoa, what the Hawaiians doing here? The Indians don't come. No, because they said, what are you doing to me? So I'm saying that the state is neglectful in standing and putting Hawaiians up to the law protection that the United States have for other indigenous people. You have to be there, be more smart than them, and argue and fight. If the only avenues are courts, then that's what you gotta do. If you have to protest on one side and do civil disobedience, and on the other side have a civil suit that's going with paperwork through the system, then you put both of them on action and you complement both of them with that action. So the judge can see that this civil disobedience relate to this paper on a civil suit. So there's two prongs going for one target. And I think that should happen for the Hawaiians. And maybe they will wake up this state, and it's shame on all the guys I went to school with. And all you people know who that is because you all went to school with Hawaiians statewide. And you call in Hawaiian your home? So what? You lock me in one closet and enjoy my home? Or am I part of what you call home? So I see that it's a gross neglect for years by our own people we went to school with that's running the state of Hawaii that don't care. No ask the military to clear. They don't care. They wouldn't dig up 4,000 Eevees at Kapu. And that's still probably sitting in a Bishop Museum in one container. Oh, we got a repository. Well, what's that supposed to mean? One nice closet. Is there a nicer way to say closet? Put them away. No, why don't put them away or leave them where they were in the first place or put them back to where they came from? Now, that's what? You lose a war? You mean the military, the Navy, the Army, they get weaker because they got to put Eevee back where they practice? Oh, don't give me that excuse. There's no excuse for putting the Eevee back where they come from. So from the military to the state, they got to stop digging us up, man.
You know, when you guys first created this law, it was strong and enforced, so what would that kind of look like?
Well, it should be made by us, not made by I don't know who. Nobody can come up and want to point finger to any name that did the Burial Council. It's shame because they know when they were doing that, they were very racist in their understanding of how they were doing this. They were racist because their conditioning was racist. So their conditioning will come out with solutions that's race-based, racist on the bottom already. So why are you there? Why don't you call traditional people and say, you know, Hawaiian, sit on the Burial Council, the rule is you got to be traditional, you cannot be a Christian. 1. 2, you got to have Eevee from that place, your family come that place, and show me tax records of how far back you go living there. Put up this little bit of information, but it has so much respect. They cannot even do that. They just do it real quick, throw it out there, and hope you go home because it's about fixing. No, it's about entertaining. You know, it seems like our suffering, you know, is a commodity to people. You know, if we suffer more, we get more money for grants, we get more money for this, we get more money for that. I saw that Kaho'olawe. They could have made laws about don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. But they saw who the activist was. So they throw out all these cookies and say, hey, we're going to make these programs. You in that valley, you in that island, you on this island, we can give you money. What you like? I like fix this here you go. I like fix this fish pond. Oh, here you go. Everybody. Now we call, hey, bro, we get action. Oh, I'm busy, bro. I'm busy. I got this project. I get that project. I don't have more time. You know, and then it's lose focus already. And that's how easy it was to discourage or direct a Hawaiian to go someplace else and how you'd sit around and get rid of them. Then the sovereign movement come up. Not one talk about Evie. Not one talk about our Manini. Nothing. They sit there and talk about pepper. We were Hawaiians before pepper. And that pepper, you cook them with cabbage, don't taste good at all, bro. It ain't about that. So I'm saying that ain't one pill gonna fix all. And the sovereign movement that's so worried about kingdom, I would say that you don't talk about taking care of the Evie. You're going to say, I don't take care of the environment, I don't take care of the Evie because sovereignty going to fix them. Nobody give on calendar date when that going to happen. But I give on calendar date when the bulldozer are going to come next week, bro. So what? Your sovereign movement and that attitude going to stop that dozer next week? Or we got to wait for paperwork? That has been a big deterrent. The sovereign practice of Hawaiian was before sovereign practice of government. So they get in sovereignty all tangled up and saying that this is sovereign government. Well, I'm sovereign Hawaiian. I was before Western contact. I was sovereign then. Well, I got to be Hawaiian now when government came, and that's when sovereignty started? To me, that whole kingdom era was 60 or 70 years of the most worst history ever imposed on Hawaiians. Mike Tutu never gave any king or queen their land. And how did they own them? And where did this king and queen stuff come from? Europe? That's not Hawaiian. So how come we're so vulnerable to accept this real corrupt and this not even focused history? It's all about them in history, not about what we go through in history. It's all about them. And there was a first mistreatment to me of Evies. When they started going around, busting up traditional beliefs, breaking down heiaus, killing Hawaiians that still was hanging on, fighting Christian against Hawaiians. Hey, bro, what? What's so great about that? Was that fair treatment? And everybody want to be related. I'm Kamehameha family. I'm Lili'uokalani family. Everybody like to be related to these so-called historical leaders, but they don't do nothing. What? You drive around as a ali'i in a bus and pick up all the Hawaiian homeless? No, they're all homeless all over like there was for 100 years. You're not there. What's this ali'i status you got? Don't you take care of your people? Or what? You just talk? I'm queen. I'm Princess Abigail. What? I ride in parades? And every Hawaiian in the side of the parade's a peasant? Is that the status of how we look at things? Well, that's what's been going on, man. Long time. And all these societies that's created around. You'd say that Oahu is the hub. And everything that Oahu say, we all on the outer islands got to go with it. You never check in with us. And I'm saying that in a 10-mile radius around the capital or wherever that Ileani Palace, that whole radius of Hawaiians were changing already. Us guys in Kapu, we still Hawaiians for a long time. We never changed with progress and attitude and life. We still the same, but we get controlled and told that because you're that far, you're ignorant, and I run the show. So when we write history, it's all about you. It's not about me. And I gotta be stuck and the world with your crap, not my goodness. It's about how that is. And for me to come up here and talk, you're going to say, oh, you're not following the status quo. You're out of line for coming and do this. This is the queen. Wow. No more one vote came from me or my family for any of these people's position to be in that position. It's your attitude and your writing of the history that I'm stuck with. I'm stuck with Oahu's mentality all the time. And you can see if Oahu is being run by the state, that's the mentality. It's all about status in the Western world that you get these positions to be one Hawaiian. It's where you at in the Western world that gives you this. Living in Punaluu Beach and Pahala, Naleo, all cousins and families and friends, South Point was always used by us guys. We'd go down there fishing a certain time and then you'd go back fish. We fish up and down the shorelines that had at least access to go down. So South Point was one place. And South Point was picked to be a Hawaiian Homes in 1920. Well, it was also picked by the Bishop Museum as a big study place to find out the migrations of Hawaiians or Polynesians or whatever I name them, coming from other parts of the Pacific to South Point. So they were digging up, what do you call those fireplaces where they start carbon dating the ash and looking what's in the ash to see your eating habits and what you, at time of year and all that stuff. So that was what was going on at South Point. But digging up 100 and something bodies there. And when I went to Bishop Museum, I was told it was Dr. Sinoro who got his doctorate from the Iwi. So he's the man about the Iwi. So when we came from Kau to go find the Iwi in search of bringing them home, we found who was in charge. And then we forced him to show us where it's at because he didn't want to. And when I went to the museum, we forced him to show us where the bones was. And during that time, he didn't want to, but he had to. And when he showed us, it was all piled in garbage bags, plastic garbage bags and knots in the back hallway. He said, there they are. And you just going, wow, man. Gosh, this was before Honokahua. That's when the federal law came about returning the bones and the museum got busted. So during that time, they agreed they was going to give us the bones. And why they agreed is because the Indians passed the law that all museums had to return their bones back to the American Indians, and we were with it because of the NAGPRA. So you can see it does fit now and then, but they won't tell you to use it. The state won't use it. But NAGPRA allowed us and told museum, that law, to bring the bones back. So when we brought the bones back to Kau, there was a big fiasco on a big photo op time to show the museum giving back bones and respectful to the Hawaiians. So they had a whole bunch of people.
So how did you how did you bring it back to?
Well, we already prepped. The hole that they took it out of, we went right next because we was afraid there'd be more in there. So we dug next to the burial site. You're talking just a few feet, maybe 10, 12 feet away, and dig down and carefully, and never found any Iwi, but it was sand, so it was easy to dig up the puka. So we had that all ready to bring the bones back, the Iwi back from museum to go in there. So the museum was setting up a whole group of people to do photo op ceremonies, and the players was all the landowners, the museum, Hawaiian Homes, Oha because it was a Hawaiian affair, Shifty because there was the one that was the archaeology department, and then you had Hawaiian Homes who owned the land. So all these people were players in this big ceremony. So I came back, we had the puka dug at home, ready to go, come back to the museum and told the museum, hey listen, I want the Eevee, I want to take them home, and you guys will continue doing this, then when we're done, it'll at least be there already. But that wasn't their plan. Our plan was bring them home and put them in a puka. We're ready already. So we went, I came with a rental car to arrange that, but they showed me the box that it was already prepared, plywood, 4x4 boxes with filled up inside. And I couldn't get that in the rental car, but I didn't want to come back. I wanted to take it already. So there was, like I said, it was these brothers that was raking leaves at Bishop Museum. And I told them about the situation. I pointed to the box and, hey, these brothers just raked all the leaves out, put the box on, took it down to Aloha Airline Cargo and dropped it off, and thank you, bro, they left. I don't know if they lost their job or what, but I was at Aloha Airlines making arrangements for it to go home already. So it got that next morning, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, it lands in Hilo and trucked it out to Kau. And that following night, we put them all back. So when we had the next meeting with all the players, they were just furious that I didn't play. They were getting ready to do this ceremony. They were studying that chant. They were getting this tapa ready. They were getting that basket. They were all big photo op scene going on. And we just buried them. We took them all back and put them down in the puka. And as we laid the skulls down, like I said, they all had teeth. So there was no decay. And from when you walk away and look back, I look down, like they were all happy, smiling, you know, you could just see teeth. And it was like smiles to me, you know, that they're home. So we buried them and covered them up and went through all the discuss from the other people about what we did without them. And, you know, like from that time on, nobody really cared about my attitude on how I look at things and the Eevee. And I never had relationship with these people ever since because of that. But that's what we did. We was the first organization to bring home our Eevee to South Point where they took them out. So it was dug up in the 50s and it went back in the 80s. So you say 30 years or so later, after he got his, well, at least you got your doctorate degree, but we took it back. So we're the first organization to bring back the Eevee to South Point.
You know, what makes you like so strong and just keep going with many Hawaiian issues and even about Eevee?
I realize I speak, you know, not much for the living, but I'm a voice for the past, and nobody speaks for them. And we should always have had that as a foundation so that they're always in understanding in what we're doing instead of just, oh, that's the past and you forget about them. And then when you do that, they get hanaino and you don't really care because you never bring it with you all the time. And who you represent, you represent them and they can't speak. So you know that you got to keep doing it till you become them. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, I talk about the birds don't change their song in their lifetime. And I don't can stop being one Hawaiian in my lifetime. So that's what drives me. And the other part about having that attitude is that I've never got negative feedback only from the opposition. I never got knocked down. I got more encouraged to win more, because all those were just human rights or basic human treatment that it goes all over the world. So I look at home and me getting involved as a driver. I mean, you know, your back gets stiffer and straighter and more, you stand out more the more you challenge and the more you make your points. And it's so easy for an Hawaiian, and it's so hard for a foreigner. But the Hawaiian scared challenge the foreigner about how much Hawaiian he is. And then when he does that, it's at this place or that place. It's not all the place. You know, and my involvement being an activist, I kind of went everywhere. I wanted to learn all of it. I wanted to know who's the culprit of all of this, who's the mindset that makes these things happen. So I was, I would say, being driven by winning a lot of these attitude situations and the confrontations with it and the results from it. So, yeah, I got a mean drive. I think if you're always being stepped on because you never tried something, then you'll never get up. But if you've tried things and it's meaningful and you win in that sense, now you just get more tough and you become more proud and you understand that I know who I am, man. And when you express who you are to people, you'll find that a lot of them don't know who they are. So it offends. Instead of go, I want to be like that in my race and understandings, they get more shelled. You know, they pull back or they pull down, and Hawaiians are like that. So I find myself already seeing over the horizon and jump high enough to see it, what's on the other side, and know that it's better there. So I just keep striving for it until I make it. I think you are Hawaiian till you die, and that's a great privilege, bro. You know, and hell of a responsibility. Hey, responsibilities of a family, man, that's what givers. You know, raise kids, do that, get job. Those are givers, man. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. But the other extra part about defending where you live and who you are, that's a real plus component if you can grab it, you know, and just be proud of it, you know. You can do two things at once. You can live in the Western world, but know where you cross the line. You have integrity and dignity that here's the line being drawn, you can't pass that. And I don't have to spend the rest of my life living the definition of Webster's. Webster's dictionary is not me. And you take my words and my ideals and make it fit into that. And then we get stuck being that more than I am. And fitting ourselves into those definitions dilutes who you are, waters you down, man. Now, you're not the true meaning of your word. You got to fix it to make them understand it, and you have to water it down for them to understand. Now you're stuck with that water down. That's what's going to happen from now on. So the problem is just not really taking all of it, man. You know, take the goods and don't let the bads take my goods. So you can take the goods of the Western world and the goods of your Hawaiian world. That'd be great, man. Life's great. And that's what should be said on your tombstone or wherever you go and you bow, that's how you were. You were full glass and not half a glass. And the way it is now, it's all half a glass. And it don't take much, you know, to turn on the other half. Like I say, it's just a switch. You know, you can be this, you can be that. And that's how easy it is, man. To see the light or no like see. And don't put up fake lights. I mean, not gonna work. So be full, be a full glass, man. And not half a glass. And I think that almost, wow, 95% of Hawaiians today kind of half a glass, man. You're not supposed to feel bad by hearing me say these things. You just got to figure out yourself where you fit. No more extra Hawaii. No more extra islands floating around with Hawaiians on top. You're it. And if you're going to let yourself be directed with what little of us is left, to go on another journey, wow, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. So I think my drive is being proud of who I am. Tell the world of who I am. I'm not ashamed to talk to anybody in this world, any leader in this world, that this is my attitude. And for my experience, I've talked with some people that are very important people that really love my attitude and really look at me, look at themselves to me sometimes and what I say and how I say it or how I feel, and add it to their feelings. So I've never had any negative down on anything I've done in this Hawaiian sense. The only negative is the system that breeds this and doesn't embrace it. And in an island of Hawaii called Hawaii, they should embrace it, man. We're just, I think, more important than snails, birds, but they got more protection than we do on an island, If it was a continent, maybe you can hide, like you do American Indians, hide them in a corner of the state, and you got the rest for playing. Hawaii, you don't do that, man. You're not going to put me nowhere. I'm here. And everywhere you go is my iwi, my native plant, my native fish, my native rock, my native waterfall. Where you going running away from Hawaiians? You're not going to run away, bro. You're here with them. You're supposed to embrace them in your second world. If not, go home to your own world. Don't come and ruin my world. Just become part of my world, man. No problem. I don't mind at all. But when you step on me in the process, that's the saw. And you in school with me. You don't know who I am. No lie. You know who I am. Fix them, bro. If you don't like me, do them. You go and do them, then do them my way. That's how easy it is.
So I wanted to ask you another thing is, a big thing is about for our generation, my generation and the generation that's going to be moving forward. How do you see our traditions and being passed on? Do you think it's going to continue on, or how do you feel about that?
The young that everybody says smart. But the thing that they miss, the young, kicking the stone in the trail. They get to see the trail all clean already. They never made no trail. They never blazed no trail. They just reaping the benefits of it. And that's how it's supposed to be anyway. So I'm saying that keep doing what we're supposed to do to make it better for the next generation. But the generations gotta embrace how we all got there. Don't just take advantage of the platform that we created and not know how that platform got there. You can stand up there and sing all the songs and rap all the words, but how did it get to that point? And you could see that it was a struggle. The problem with the young is they're not struggling the way we did. So they don't know the source and the pain it takes to get to that level. That's what they miss. They don't come back and ask you. They don't come back and embrace what you did. They just jump from there and they start going. And that's a sad part, is that culturally, you're supposed to go back. That's how Native people do things. I mean, Indian people don't send their medicine man to a senior citizen's house and drop them off because they're too old. Okay? They still use that knowledge and that experience and that wisdom and the chain link. They got all that down. So I'm saying that the young better wise up and show the world that you respect your past because you work with your past. You live with your past. And I'm not talking about 800 AD. I'm talking about yesterday, bro. Few years down the road, this all happened. The last 30 years, this all happened. You wasn't even born or you just one baby. It ain't like looking at black and white pictures of slavery and how they treat the blacks. It's not that old. It is historically, but the events that brought everything to its surface was just yesterday, man. I'm still here. I don't feel old, you know. But the young don't come. Excuse me, Pali. You an exceptional, bro. You. I'm just talking. The general don't come and say, Uncle, tell me how we do this and tell me how to do that. I'm saying that the young in the future gonna be in trouble, because if you navigate in a canoe and you think you know how to navigate, fine. But if you've never been on a voyage, and Uncle been on 20, 100 voyages, you don't ask him, you in trouble. So what? You can navigate. Can you deal with this, deal with that, deal with that? Uncle did it. Why not ask? Why not go be part of it? No, it's shut off time. You know, they play the Western idea of millennium, whatever that means, and going, it's still Ohana, bro. You don't have to follow these Western words and then live them out. You can be this kind millennium. You can be this way because you're supposed to be. That's Hawaiian way. You know, if we're going to lose contact with our Evie, it's because we won't act like that. If you're really in tune, you're not going to act that way. You're going to look at how, what, why, where, and what direction. You don't take off with your direction. You ain't got nothing in your pocket, but you got status. You got president of your student body. I mean, what? Kumu for this, all that stuff. No, it ain't gonna be like that. Good luck, you know, and it ain't gonna do the Hawaiian justice. Because what happens to Hawaiians today, you can do it in New York. The Iwi not in New York. The Manini not in New York. So I'm saying that the youngs gotta hook up with the uncles and the aunties and sit down and learn some angles, some philosophy, some things, the formulas that make it work. You gotta do that, man. You're not doing it. They just, I get them. You know, Mom, bro. You're not even close. If you never been kicking the stones on the trail that uncles and aunties had to do, you just at the end of the trail and it's a nice walk. You have no idea how that walk got there unless you come back and ask. And maybe the next walk will be easier for you because they know how to walk it.
And that's so true, you know. You never did it.
You don't know?
You never went.
Well, you're part of Blazing Trail, that's why. I mean, people like take stuff that's real easy. You know, sing a song, that's easy. Make up a dance, and that's all easy stuff. But to walk the trail, like I would say that you in your young age, bro, and getting, you know, and you hooking up with me, and I'm seeing, you know, seeing your soul. That's how I see. I wish the future was for the rest of the young people, that they get that deep in it and they gotta understand it. And it's not just Evie, bro. You know, if it's not Evie, we're not supposed to give up. It's practice. You know, we learn all the Hawaiian stuff, from dancing, singing, making one lauhala hat, or dancing one hula. I mean, we learn all of that. But do they defend it? Do we learn how to defend that? Because when it comes time to defend, and you look over your shoulders, nobody's there. And the Evie, if they're digging us up every day statewide, it's because nobody's there, bro. Nobody's there. Now, you don't get sleep. Unless you leave one eye open, because they're digging you up every day and they're deteriorating your traditions and these islands with you at the same time. So maybe get millions of Indians and millions of all these ethnic races where they come from. They get home, they get identity, they get millions to replace themselves. I don't think you can find any more Hawaiians in this world and one other island where you can run to, go home to, or become yourself if you want. You got that choice. You don't have to, but we got no choice. Whether we get an extra place I can go. If there was an extra island that was really Hawaiian traditions, I'd go a long time ago already. I wouldn't stay and struggle and fight because you know no more other place, so this is it for you, bro. Either you step up to the plate or you just go fade out, you know? And when you're fading out, you know, a cold pack with ukulele, sit under a coconut tree, bro, and fade out, you know? Or you can get in front government face, you can get in front your issue and stand there and make a difference. You know, it ain't all about paperwork, bro. I told you, the Howleys call it civil disobedience. Well, that's to bring attention, okay? So that's what you gotta do to bring attention. Then you gotta go do the law where that pertains to. If you don't do either one, you ain't going nowhere, bro. Nowhere. So I'm just saying that the young gotta wise up, man. The young cannot really take it off in a direction without coming back and fill up your water bottle, man, with the knowledge. You're going out there with one sip, bro, you ain't going to make it. It's a long trip. And if you're not coming back and filling up your knowledge with ammunition to take that trip, you ain't making it. And how I see it now, a lot of young that I saw in these last movements, they quit, bro. They cannot take it, you know. And then when they look for direction, it's kind of like too late, bro. Why? This is what should have happened first. But you never come back and ask. So now you stuck with what you did and where you at and realize, oh, I've made one big bite. I cannot swallow it now. So I'm out of here. And saying, that's not how we was. When we take a big bite in my movement time, we chew them up and spit them out. We don't choke on them, okay? And that's what it is. The young's got to realize that, talk story, fill up your ammunition belt. You ain't walking out there with what you know, because you don't know nothing. Easy to say I'm a Hawaiian. Easy to dress up and dance and blow a pool. Hey, dime a dozen, bro. To get up and stand up for issues that takes you on, takes you beyond what you're talking about. You ain't gonna make it if you never check in. And I think that's what the young has to do. And that ain't Western style. That's Ohana style. That's Hawaiian style. I never learned to think this way because I never check in with my grandpa then. That's who told me, you better have this if you're going over there. Load up your ammunition. Now you go out there in your own world and you can deal with it. And it paid off. I'm here today with this so-called attitude or feelings because the seed they went plant, it's the product. And I'm a link, as I said. I hope get hooked up to that link after me. So in the EV sense, I know, get link. You the link. And I hope other Hawaiians wake up to that and think about how important it is. You only pass it through here one time. You got one pass and you're done. You know, and if you make 80 on the earth, you figure 40 of that or 50 of that, you was playing in the world. Before that, you were only playing in the house, in the backyard. But after that, you in the world, bro. You gotta be akamai or smart on how to deal with it. I'm just saying that the young come back and ask questions and deal with it and don't just take off because you really don't know, man. You just taking off with the cream. You don't know what's underneath. You know, you gotta know the whole glass. And you ain't gonna make it, like I say, with one sip. And that's the situation. I know I talk kind of like how I talk, but you try to listen to what it means or how you can put it into your own context and how you can make your own self adjust from some statements, and not just shut it down because it offends you. I mean, what's more offensive, bro? Occupying a race of people and burying them at the same time? Is that offensive? I think that's offensive. I don't think conversation and attitude adjustments is bad. I think that's the problem we miss, is that we run into our shell and shut it down. And good luck. You're going to be a shut down person the rest of your life, or running from it. Find yourself, put yourself in a niche, and take care. You'll be more happy. Everybody be happy. You'll be more happy yourself because you found a niche in loving where you at and the people that came with it.
I know this is like everybody asks, this question, and it has many meanings for people, but I just wanted to ask you, what does aloha mean to you?
That's a tourist word, man. Aloha got bankrupt long time ago. We have Aloha Airlines, Aloha Simon Stand. We got a lot of Aloha, and I think the Christian time is when they took that word and made it their word. And then they use it when they like, and expect the Hawaiian that they condition to use it all the time. And they don't use it all the time. But they're going to say, because you Hawaiian, you got to use this word. And because I'm not Hawaiian, no, the thing's not appropriate for me to say it. Well, the definition changed already. When I say aloha today, what? Is it goodbye, hello, or goodbye for this land? I mean, what does aloha really mean anymore? I try to aloha out in court, in front of the board of Land Natural Resource, in front of a lot of commission. They don't work. Aloha doesn't have any meaning. They got to stop using that word because they don't stand up to what it means in the first place. And I think a lot of our words were changed to fit the Christian identification or ID of what they wanted way back in the day. What you say for this, what you say for that. They put it in a Christian twist, and we stuck with it. I'm not really happy about that because I don't see it. And the people who take it don't use it properly. So it's not aloha is now unlike maybe to some people just greeting. It may have some meaning instead of say hello. It has a little bit more, there's love or something like that, but it's conversation about. And then you could see it, then it's also for sale too. So I don't too much on aloha at all.
So I just wanted to say mahalo Pali, for being a big part and teaching me what you know. That really helped me out, helped me out to save our iwi kupuna.
Yeah, and when I met you and went to your house and you took me to the cave and you wanted to save it, so you were trying to get some way of doing it, and you got all these Hawaiians that are running entities, $1 billion with Bishop of State, 300 million with Hawaiian Homes, 300 million maybe with the Leo Kalani Trust, 300 million with OA, and you gotta go PayPal to protect the iwi because the only way was to buy that cave that Ana were in. I thought that was pretty sad, man. When I came and we talked about it years ago, and I went to see you and visit that place. It was sad that that's where it was, and I'm going, of all these years with iwi, this is where we still at. I mean, OHA should have funding set aside or some entity that when these things come up like that, they just shut it down. They buy it, they preserve it, they protect it. Not the Hawaiian gotta go do it themselves. I mean, how make is that, that sound like we just got off the Mayflower, bro. We never learned nothing. And it's all brand new. And that's a lie. So gross neglect from the system and the treatment. And not once, I think, that I ever talked about that it'll get saved by a king and a queen. I mean, it got saved by just a few dollars and people that care. I mean, that's how easy that was. And you're going, why isn't this system not being that easy to snip all the problems and not let you go through it? I see how you and learn through that process that you really can't trust your other Hawaiians in a sense that could have made a lot of difference. And you going through that, I give you and look at saying, maybe we get a chance, man, on the EV. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the Hawaiian with the manini and saving the limo at the reef. I hope he steps up and tell a hotel, quit drilling water, bro. You sucking out the water coming to the papa. No more limo. You're going to fill all your condominiums and all your resorts, drilling all the fresh water up, Mauka, down the reef where the water used to come out. No more limo, no more fish. Anybody care about that? Come on, brother fisherman. Raise those issues. You got to take it back to the problem. All they got okay permits to suck all the water, you never get to the papa, never get limo. I'm not talking the mouth of the river. I'm talking like corner coast, no more river. Mm-hmm. The water in all those condos and resorts on the shoreline, all of them get 160 wells, 100 wells that they drill. And all that water going to every condo and golf course. The reef empty, fish gone, limo gone. No more that connection between the salt and the fresh. So, to help brother and the manini step up like you stepping up with the Eevee, because that's what it's all about, man. Mm-hmm. If the young's gonna move forward, I think you're a good example of how it should be, and a little bit relief for me that somebody behind me is doing something that we were doing. Big time appreciation. You know, in my organization, the Pele Defense Fund, I've always finished every letter with lifetime commitment. And the Eevee never died just to die. It had a purpose. And I think in their time, they would do the same for me. You know what I mean? If there was reverse. That's who we are. It's the DNA in the cocoa for hundreds and hundreds of years. If the Hawaiians are proud enough to stand up to that, then we're in trouble. So I hope they fill their glass and not think half a glass is enough in life. Yeah.